Hey guys, today's video, what we're going to do, we're going to talk about an issue that I know a lot of you guys have had. And let me show you what it is. It's the infamous no source on your active target. Okay, so there's a bunch of things you can check, and I'll take you through the whole steps, and hopefully by the end of the video you'll have it fixed, or at least next time if it occurs on you, you'll know where to look and how to fix the thing for you. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sit here and I'm going to go to pages. Okay, I'm going to go to settings. I want to check to see if my active target is on the network. So if I scroll down to the about box here, I go to support. Okay, and I do a check for system updates. What that's going to do, that's going to list everything it sees on the network right now, and you can see there's not a whole lot connected. I don't have the bow turned on, so it sees my console left unit, console right, my live well temperature sensor, my bow, my in-hull temperature sensor. Okay, and I have 2.1s on the boat, and I have two EP ADRs in the boat. So, but you can see there's no active target available. So anyway, so that's the first thing you need to do, is go in and go to the about box, hit support again, check for system updates, look in that list. If you don't see the active target there, okay, so now what you got to do is you got to figure that one is not on the network. So the thing is, what you want to do is make sure that if you have the active target plugged into another unit, okay, which is the way I have it up on my boat here, make sure that unit is powered on, and make sure the active target is powered on. If those two are on, then you're good to go. If you have your active target going directly into a NEP module, or maybe it's directly going into the unit that we were just looking at, this unit here, okay, then what you've got to do is now I'm going to start looking at power. Does my active target have power to it? Okay, so I check the power. The power LED should be flashing kind of a reddish orange and green. If it's not doing that, then it's not powered up and in ready mode. Okay, if it's just a solid color on the power indicator, that's when you have an issue. Okay, the next thing you need to do is on that module is to determine, do I have power? If you have power, great. Okay, if you don't have power, that's where you need to start. On my boat, I use accessory switch, and on Rangers they have these accessory switches here. Okay, now I'm not tied into this one. I'm tied into A1 for my S3100 module. There's also an accessory switch on the bow, which is different than the accessory switch on the console. So you have to be very, very careful of that. Make sure you're turning on the right switch if you got it turned on. So let's keep debugging this thing. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go up to the bow. I'm gonna turn the bow unit on. I'm gonna turn the boat on. Because I have to turn the accessory switch component on. So let me turn my boat on. Okay, boat's on, so let's go up to the bow. So while I'm up here, this is the unit the active target module is connected to, because what happened is I ran out of ports on my net box, so I just routed it to that. So I'm gonna turn that on, okay? And then I'm gonna come down here, and you can see I have my accessory switch down here, so I'm gonna turn that on. That's gonna turn on the active target module. So once that comes up, we should be able to see it. I don't have to go back to the console because this unit is already set to see the active target. No source. Okay, so now what will happen is that after that module gets powered up and it's ready to go, the no source will disappear on us. So sometimes it takes a little bit. Just have to have a little patience. Now, the other thing I'd have, see, it just went way on us. Okay, so now I have my active target running on this bow unit with the accessory switch turned on. Again, the problem there, my active target wasn't turned on and this unit wasn't turned on. So now let's go back to the console, see if I have it back there. All right, we're back at the console, and you can see we now have our active target right here at the console. So now let's go back and do our double check, okay? So I'm gonna bring up our settings. I'm going to bring up the about box, support, check for system updates, and now we have console left, console right. There's the active target module. Now it shows up, And now it shows my bow upper unit, okay, in addition to the other pieces that I already had before. So that's what was missing from the last time we looked. This active target 2 and this bow upper unit, okay. Without that upper unit turned on and the active target turned on, I would never see it. If this unit is turned off, okay, you'll never get the network over to this unit because this one has the net box. It uses the yellow wire off of this unit to control my net module. So essentially I have 3 modules in my boat that utilize the yellow wire. One is the active target module I showed you with the accessory switch. The second is the network hub, which is a net 2 box, and that's controlled by the yellow wire coming off of this left unit, okay. And then I have my switch for the console, and that's for my 3100 module, okay. So that's the first thing. So now at this point I would feel very confident that my active target is working. Okay, so here's my active target screen on my right console unit. What I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the left unit, which I know is the network hub, and watch what happens. Okay, network just went away. So it should pop up with no source. There you go. See the no source that just popped up? And that's because I lost my network. Okay, this will happen if you have an intermittent network cable. Maybe you don't have a connector on properly. Maybe the unit that it's connected through got turned off accidentally, or maybe your network hub is messed up. So that's what happens. If it was working fine, that's where I would start debugging it. Okay, there's a good chance that's what it's just a simple problem of a network. This simple problem is just I turned the left unit off, which turned my network hub off, so therefore everything shut down network wise, except to that upper bow unit, because that one has a cable connected directly to it, so that one won't show you no source, but this one shows no source. This is another place to check to see if you have your active target module on the network. Okay, if you go into your data, what's called a data source selection here, okay, you look down, you should see an active target option for the depth. Okay, one thing very important. Okay, and the way again to get to that, pages, settings, scroll up to network, go to data sources, touch sonar, touch depth, boom, you can see the active target module. Again, that's another quick check. I like to check the network first before I start tearing anything apart. If you start trying to reconfigure your unit before you've actually diagnosed what the real problem is, you may never get it back to what you had. So, okay. All right, one thing you need to do is make sure your versions are correct. Okay, I've seen issues where if you don't have the most current version of your software, then you may have glitches in the network transmission. So, and that'll cause an intermittent problem. So, pages, settings, scroll up to about. Okay, check your version right here. It's 23.3, 67.3.32. That's the latest one as of August this year. So that's the first thing you do. Check the version on your unit. Okay. If you go into sorry about that. Let's go back into the About box. Hit Support. Check for updates. You can see the active targets showing 23.3. They're all showing 23.3, but there's several different variants of that 23.3. Okay, so if we go to the active target module installation, I'll show you where to get the exact version of that. You scroll down to sonar. Okay, actually you don't have to scroll on almost everybody. Go down to the active target installation, right, very bottom. Okay, and that's going to bring up this menu. You can see there's the version 2.67.3.36. That's the one that came out, I believe, in April, May, June, somewhere in that time frame. So that's the one you want to make sure you have on there. There was an issue with, like I say, where the network was dropping out some of the earlier, the 23.3 versions of that. That's why there's a later version. That's one good check to do, is to check your versions, make sure everything's correct. All right. If your unit does not recognize the active target or doesn't have the features turned on, if you go to pages, you will not see the active target icon down here to select it. The way to get that back is go to Settings, okay, scroll up to Advanced, go to Features. Okay, on Features, you turn Active Target on. See where I just turned it on? And now we'll go back. So that's the feature you want turned on. So you X out of that. Now I get the little dialog that pops up, says Active Target features have been enabled. Touch that. Go over here. Now you'll see we have Active Target right here. Okay. So now we touch that and we have our Active Target back and everything's cool. One issue is that if you have changed either the unit, okay, or the Active Target module, then you will essentially have to do a site modification or reconfiguration. So, and I'll cover that in a moment. If you go into your sonar settings and you have that the Active Target feature turned off, you'll notice that we won't see that Active Target installation down here. Okay, very important. So if you happen to go over to here to check it, check the version on it, you don't see it, you know your feature's turned off. So again, go back to System, Advanced. Let's just turn the feature back on. Bump, and we should be good to go there. X out of that. As soon as you X, you get the menu pop up, and now we will go to sonar, and now you see the Active Target install is there, and you can see everything's back. Okay, so those are just some things you can do so if you're having issues with it not being seen on your machine, okay, so you go and check that, check the features, make sure features are turned on. I've seen issues where that has happened. So if everything else is working, you know, and then suddenly you're having problems, you may not have gotten a no source, but suddenly the things kind of froze up on you. Here's some of the issues that you may be having. One, you could simply be having a heat issue. If it during these hot summers we've been having lately, if it's in a locker, like some installs, sometimes the unit will overheat, or the module itself will overheat. I haven't seen that happen in the bows, bow installations, or where I install it under the console here, but I have seen it in some locker situations. And sometimes what you want to do is you might have to open up your locker to cool it down. You might have to turn off the module for a little bit, let it cool down a little bit, and then power it back up. That'll work as well. The other thing is that when you're installing the module, make sure that the fins, the cooling fins on top, there's those ridges on top of the module itself, make sure they're not in contact with anything else. They need to be clear of obstructions. They need to have some air circulation around them ideally. Okay. If you can, mount the module vertical so your plugs are on the bottom, the cooling fins are on the top. That way, since heat rises, it'll take more heat away from the unit. Okay, so that's one issue you might be having. The second issue you might be having could have had a situation where you have low power. Okay, your battery may be running down, your voltage level is down, or it's not able to produce enough current to your module. If that happens, then the module will hang up. You'll start getting units that suddenly this unit will get a no source, the next unit will not, and then it just goes on from there. A lot of times that low voltage will happen if you run it for say 6, 8, 10 hours without cranking the big motor up to charge back your battery if your electronics battery is the same battery. Okay, so that's one issue you might be having. Okay, one thing I have on my boat here is I've got a voltmeter, which it'll come through this area here. I have it turned off right now. I also have 2 USB ports. You come here and push the button, and now it tells me that I have the voltage up here. So the neat thing is with the cover on, you can still read that, but I have it hidden so it's out of the way. It's not going to get hit anything. But that's something you may want to consider on your boat if you're having voltage issues. And this is coming off of the voltage supply for the bow units and the Active Target module. Something very handy, easy to do. These are like $10, $15 on Amazon. It's not hard to wire it in either. So okay, so just turn back off. The other thing is that if you crank your boat and you notice that you went no source on that, what could have happened is that the boat itself sends all the power from the battery to the motor to start it. Okay, I've seen that with some modules in some Rangers. Okay, so you may briefly lose power on your electronics install, and that would cause the module to glitch, which would eventually bring up a no source or even a hang situation. Very frustrating, but it does happen. The solution to that is simply to try and put a separate battery in for your electronics, okay, that's isolated from your start battery. That way your boat will always start because it's a separate start battery, and you got electronics running on an isolated battery, not interfered by your boat operation. Okay, so that's another one. Third thing, I've used accessory switches on some Rangers, and what I've noticed, especially with the Mercury engines, is that when you crank it, it will again ship all the power from the boat over to the motor to start it. And this is only for a split second. I've seen that on my solid state relays where the LED indicator gets turned off, even though you have the accessory switch on and you don't see anything happening on your accessory switch lights. It will still happen. What that causes is the unit then goes into limbo mode because the wake up signal flips are on you, or maybe you got, say, another module that's running off that solid state relay itself that's using its power. Again, that puts it in a limbo state. And I've seen that with the Sirius XM modules. I've seen it with the 3100s. I've seen it with the active target module. So again, if you're using the boat accessory switch, make sure that it doesn't transfer all the power when you start the motor. Okay, again, that's going to be a glitch, harder to find initially until you know about it. Once you know about it, then okay, there are ways to work around that. So hopefully if I ever get the one boat in here, I'll try to do a video when I do the upgrade. I'm actually going to put a separate switch panel in to solve that problem. All right, so those are some extra problems you might have. Certainly haven't covered all the issues you may have, but again, we're going to now talk about how you fix problems when you have, basically by doing global resets. Okay, so that's the next second. If you had done everything, you checked the voltage, you checked the network, you checked all the versions, everything's correct, and you're still having some issues with things being recognized, you're still getting no source issues, or you're randomly getting them. The random issue is a transient problem, but you can go ahead and what you can do with the no source issue after you've done everything is you hit pages, okay, and it's probably not showing up. You go to settings, okay. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to restore defaults, okay. What we're going to do, we're going to uncheck everything except global settings. Make sure everything is unchecked. If you check some of this stuff, you will mess up your waypoints. So what I'm going to suggest is to back up your waypoints before you do this. Okay, so you just want to make sure you're not going to lose your data, and it's always a good idea to back up your waypoints. I did a video on that, but didn't get a lot of views, but it's something that's very, very important, and I know people have lost a lot of waypoints that way. So anyway, you hit check global settings only, hit OK, and now the unit restarts. And come back to the accept box here, load in the maps, and now we go to, it'll ask you to, now here we go. You see that we just got rid of our global settings, which is the active target module. It's just said it's been located on the system. So now what we want to do is we want to configure it. Okay, I'm going to configure for fresh and click finish. Okay, now we have active target configured, so now we should be able to still use our hot button, and there it is. It thinks it's in auto mode, but what we actually have on my boat here, I've got it set in forward all the time. So there's forward mode. So there it is back, and now let's go through and check it through the things. I didn't modify any of my settings, but I did change my forward range to roughly, I think it's 120 feet is what I was running. So that's what I have set up. So that's my settings. Again, if you reset the global settings, you will lose the settings you had for that unit. Okay, just go through and go back and redo it. Just remember what they were. Easiest to just write it down or screenshot it. The other thing you might want to do is also on the global settings. And one global setting you got to make sure you double check is if you have a 0.1 compass and where you're checking this. If you have a 0.1 compass that gives you the heading, you want to make sure that your data source for your vessel, okay, you see the heading is now global. That's not on this machine. This machine this should be set to local, and I'll tell you why in a moment. And I'm going to uncheck that. Okay. The reason is I've got my 0.1 antenna on the bow, which is where I prefer it being for orientation when you're fishing. Okay. You need to set it for local for the console units. So when you pull the trolling motor up out of the water, it's going to put the trolling motor head right next to the antenna, which is going to ruin your compass settings. Okay, so you want to double check that, and you're also going to want to double check all of your settings on this. For example, I have, well, that also reset everything. So water temperature is set to global. I got to fix that. Okay, this is a little feature that I would have expected to only set the local settings, or excuse me, only reset the global settings, but apparently what it's doing is also resetting the global settings. So I got to set my water temperature locally to my in-hull temperature. Okay, I do not want to set it the active target one. Not a good idea. Okay, because that's always in and out of the water. I want to set my depth to my this device here. So I'm going to leave it to panel select. And that'll let me, once everything's coming up and running, we'll be good to go. But again, that's got to be set to local because I don't want to have my other machine affected by it. Okay, so go ahead, change that from scope to local, or scope it to local. Okay, so you can see the local just changed. It just changed up here. So again, check all that stuff. If you're unsure of anything, go through and scan the stuff that's important to you. For example, this machine has weather on it because at one time I had a Sirius on there. I got engine data. All that stuff there is going to be okay. That's all global. Batteries, oil tanks, things like that. The main thing that you're really concerned about is your heading, which is this piece here. Set it, scope it local, and your depth and your water temperature. Okay. Again, you only want to have water temperature coming from your stern, which is in the water at all times if you're on the console. Okay, so I remember I just reset the globals on that unit there. You're going to have to go through for every unit that uses the active target module. You're going to pop up with this information here. You can see it says it's not ready to use because, again, you reset the global. Anything global affects all your units on the network. So real simple, just to, have one turned on, finish it, and you'll be done. Okay. So that's all you have to do is just hit the OK on that box. So resetting your global variables will essentially fix the majority of the issues you have. Again, that's sort of the last step if nothing else worked. You've gone through, you've checked power, you've checked network, you check the updates, everything that works. The unit can see the module on the network. It still comes in as no source. That's when you go through and reset your globals. Okay. Try not to do that unless you have to, but if you have to, go ahead and do it. Just understand what your ramifications are. Okay, you're going to have to reset a few things. All right, hey guys, thanks for watching the video. If you made it this far, there's a couple other videos that, for example, if you're having issues with your sonar, I did a video on sonar issues. So if it's not able to find your sonar, so you might want to watch that if you're having any issues with your sonar. The other thing is I did a complimentary video to this one where I'm setting up your hot buttons for your Lowrance units, and that's something that make it a little bit easier for you to do on the water. All right, so again, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already subscribed, and so I really truly appreciate it. Thank you. Bye.